I guess you saw it last time I was on.
Yeah, you got your devil going. Hi,
Yeah.
welcome. This is the CaddyInfo.com Cadillac chat. We do these to talk about Cadillacs and other automotive anecdotes. We enjoy visiting more than anything else, perhaps. But we do get around to talking about Cadillacs. And if you ever want to join us to talk about Cadillacs, then signal me on Google Plus, and I'll try and include you in our invitation. I have with me Cadillac Jim from the Caddy Info Forum
Hello.
with his Duke. Is that a Duke logo?
No, it's a grinning devil, I think. Yes,
It
it's a
is a
grinning
grinning
devil.
devil. I just associate grinning devils with Duke, I guess.
No, Duke sucks.
Oh, there you go. And also, Platinum Jim, or Texas Jim, as he's sometimes known from the forum.
Good evening, everybody.
Perfect. I keep calling him Platinum Jim because he's just gotten a new 2011 Platinum DTS performance sedan, so in which we are going to talk about some more tonight. I wanted to bring up a first topic is this week Mark Reese was talking some more about the upcoming large Cadillac, and he said it's going to be everything Cadillac aspires to be in terms of innovation and high technology. And he also said that they have not decided yet whether to call it the LTS, as we have been doing, or whether they will name it something else. So my question for you gentlemen is, if you could select the name for the new large sedan, what would you call it?
Jim, go first.
DeVille Platinum.
The Seville Platinum?
DeVille Platinum.
The DeVille Platinum? You bring
Just
back the
kidding.
DTS name or the DeVille name?
I would bring back the DeVille name.
I wouldn't.
What would you like to call it?
Yeah, if it's going to be the big one, the top of the line with all the toys, then it ought to be a Fleetwood.
Ah, you're right.
I think there's a good argument there, but you'd make it a Fleetwood what? Would you make it a Fleetwood Eldorado like back in the 50s?
No, it's got to be a Brome. Brome.
No, this is going to be the big
Oh,
with all the
Yeah,
stuff.
Vinny joined.
yeah.
So it ought to just be the Fleetwood.
Vinny, can you hear us okay?
I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear you very well. I'd like to introduce Vinny O'Hare is joining us from Cadillac Country Club, and you may have three other .coms that I won't say the right way. And so tell us more if you'd like, Vinny. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Well, I've been watching you guys for a couple of weeks now. It's an honor to be on. Actually, I feel like I know you guys.
Yeah.
Oh, well, splendid, and I'm so glad that you weren't. I know one of the weeks you told us you were hiking, and I've gotten several. It sounded like you stayed doing fun stuff.
Yeah, it seems like always 1 hour before this starts, I'm like going out somewhere. So, this week I says, oh, I'm in.
Well, tonight's question, Mark Reese was talking about he's expecting the new large Cadillac to be exemplary of Cadillac in terms of technology and innovation, but he said they may not call it the LTS, which has been the rumor for the last year or two that the new large Cadillac would be called the LTS. So if you were going to name the new large Cadillac, what would you call it?
Anything but something with 3 letters.
Yeah.
Anything with a real name. Texas Jim suggesting Fleetwood, make that the Fleetwood Brome.
Well, I was the one that said Brome. He just called it the Fleetwood.
That's right. Texas
Fleetwood.
suggested Fleetwood. Cadillac
Brome.
sharpened that to Fleetwood Brome. Now, the premium version could be the Fleetwood Brome, of course, is the way they did it back in the day, right?
Yep.
So the standard version would be the Fleetwood, and the premium would be the Fleetwood Brome. And then I suppose they could have a Fleetwood Brome Platinum.
Or Fleetwood Brome V that would compete with the Bentley Shadows.
Now, I would still use originally they had Fleetwood and then another name, right? So Brome was one, the Fleetwood Eldorado was one. So I would still perhaps.
Not many people are going to remember the Fleetwood Eldorado because that was so long ago.
But I'm still thinking though that if you used the old classic names, so that, in other words, this line of cars, so if they end up making one that's a convertible, one that's a coupe, one that's a sedan, then I would still protect, reach back and call them Fleetwood Eldorados, Fleetwood Biarritz, Fleetwood Convertible, and so on.
Well, if they have an Eldorado, it better be a two-door.
Yes, please. Has to be a coupe.
It has to be a two-door.
Has to be a coupe. Now, all that said, my argument is they should actually come back and name this one the Seville again.
I would be
and
for
the
that.
reason is the Seville originally was supposed to be the S-Class, even though no one thinks that it probably aspired to be the Mercedes S-Class, that the Seville was actually the S-Class representative for the Cadillac line. And so I would name this large Cadillac the Seville and still price it at $120,000 or whatever they're going to do.
Do you think they're actually going to go back and name?
I don't. Did we lose Vinny suddenly?
Oh.
Darn it! We had him for a moment.
Question.
Do I think they're actually going to go back and name the? Why don't we use Crowdcast? Somebody popped in and asked a question. Why don't we use Crowdcast.io in order to broadcast the show on? And the reason we don't use Crowdcast is we know how to use Google+. We know how to use Google+ Hangouts, and I had seen people using Google+ Hangouts, and so I got interested in Google+ Hangouts. I don't have any experience with Crowdcast.io. I don't have anything against it, but that's why. So Vinny's back. Welcome back. And Vinny, no, I do not know that they're going to go to full names instead of three-letter names, but that's my hope.
Mine too.
Because I'd like to see Cadillac go. I'd like to see a, I would have named instead of the V Sports, I would have named them the 60 Special versions, and had a little 60S next to it, so you'd have the CTS 60S and and so on. But yeah, I like the old school names better than the three-letter alphabet. Now the news release, the website I was reading worried that they'll come up with some other weird three-letter code. Like they were worried instead of the LTS, they'll simply name it the QTS. Or like the QTC, even worse, the cutesy Cadillac.
I don't think so.
Now, if I wasn't going to name it Seville, though, I could see bringing back. Oh, we lost Vinny again. Darn it! I could see them bringing back the ETC or making this the ETS. I think that they had some brand recognition in the ETCs, and so even if they didn't actually call it an Eldorado, I could see calling it an ETC, and then the rest of us would know it was an Eldorado.
Well, it still had to be a two-door if they're going to call it Eldorado.
Yeah, it would have to be a two-door to be an ETC or an Eldorado, either one.
I don't know if this first one would be a two-door or four-door. Benny, is there anything I can do to keep you from popping out?
I don't know. All of a sudden, my screen just freezes. I can see you guys talking, but I don't know.
Okay. Well, we'll keep holding our breath.
Some with the connection because your picture winks out.
There could be weather somewhere in the Northeast or in between the Northeast and the Google. But thank you for continuing to jump back in, and we're glad to have you on. So Texas Jim, or as I like to call him, Platinum Jim, has recently purchased a 2011 DTS Platinum against my advice. I urged him to go get an XTS and explained to him that the XTS was the upgrade to his car with the 6-speed transmission and a fuel-efficient, higher horsepower engine, but he would not listen. And he is deeply in love with his new 2011 DTS Platinum, so I will let him tell us about it.
Well, I did try out the XTS, but only down to the end of the parking lot and back. I already knew I didn't want it because, and it was the XTS Platinum. The two pieces of leather that cover the center console there's a double stitch French seam right there on the driver's side. Well, there's one on the other side too, but there's a double stitch French seam
where your knee goes.
leather, and it looks really, really nice. I mean, it's pretty. But in my normal setting position, and you know the trouble I have with my knees,
Yes.
my knee, the little bone right there on the side of my knee, rested exactly right against that hard double stitch seam in that leather, and I knew that wasn't going to work. It just wasn't going to fit. So I only drove it about a quarter of a mile.
You didn't try moving the seat?
Oh, yeah, I'd move the seat around before I ever drove it. I spent 5 minutes messing with the seat, trying to get it in a position where I was still comfortable and my knee would not be against that when I was relaxed and driving.
Yes.
Now, if I was up on the wheel driving it really sporty and all, it wouldn't be a problem. But you don't drive that way everywhere.
Well, I
And
don't, but you actually do.
in my semi-relaxed position.
So the XCS was not your ideal, but let's hear about your car because it turned out to be almost exactly what you wanted, right?
Yeah, I've been looking for one off and on for about 2 years. And this one popped up, and my son let me know about it, and I made arrangements for the dealer 175 miles away to hang on to it till I could get there. And drove my 2006 out there, and we argued and jumped up and down and pounded it on desk. And, you know, I got up once to walk out and leave, and I actually got the wife up. I mean, we were leaving. I was irritated. And, but anyway, we ended up making a deal, and I drove it back home. And it was okay on the drive back home. And I liked it. It was nice and quiet. It was quieter than the 2006 inside. And it drives a little bit different. The steering on the 2011, even though it has the
Magna steer? Yeah, that's what
just,
97.
Hold on just a second. Hey, John, I'll call you back in just a minute.
His brother is a truck driver,
John, I'll
and
call
so
you
he
back.
calls. I'm going to mute Jim for just a moment. And his brother sometimes calls during our time together.
Yes.
Now I got to work to get him unmuted. Now can you hear me, Jim?
Yeah, that was my nephew that was going to be here tomorrow.
Oh, there you go.
I'll call him back in a minute.
Good.
But the 2011 drives a good bit different than the 2006 does, even though they're supposed to be more or less identical cars, just the 2011 is newer.
It's always refinement every year.
The 2006 drove a lot tighter. The steering was a little bit harder to turn. It had to me, it had a really good feedback and a good road feel to it. You could feel through the steering wheel what the front wheels was doing. And that's hard to explain to a lot of people, but I like that. I really, really like that. I like to know what my car is doing while it's doing it.
Well, in a half-hour show, I can't look it up, the manual, and see what's up, but I really think that there's a Magna steer, you know, speed sensitive steering on that car that can be programmed.
But I haven't had it back to the dealer yet to check on that.
I see, yeah.
But the 2011 it's real easy to steer. I mean, you can just steer it with one finger. And if you'd have tried to, I mean, going into a parking lot, turning into a parking space, you know, you can just turn it with one finger. If you'd have tried to turn my 2006 with one finger, you'd break your finger. You know, you had to use your hands to turn it. But other than that, okay, I just took about a 3,700-mile road trip, and it did real well. It runs out on the highway good, but I wasn't overly impressed with the performance on the drive when I first bought it and driving it the 175 miles back home. I wasn't overly impressed with it. I didn't stand on it very much. Once, I think, going up on the freeway. But a couple of times I gave it gas to pass a car, and, it did it okay. I mean, I can't complain about it, but it just wasn't as spirited as the '06 was. The '06, it always had a feeling like it was eager. It was just ready to go. All you had to do was just say, let's go, and it was ready. Well, the 2011 wasn't. It was just real laid back. And it would do what you asked it. It done it without complaint. But it wasn't eager to do it. It would comply, but it wasn't egging you on. Come on, come on, come on. Let's go do something.
Right.
That was the feeling my '06 had. So we started out on the road trip. Of course, I drove it around here in town for a week. My wife's brother had a stroke, so we had to go to South Carolina. So I had the miles from Abilene back home, and then I'd burned about a tank of gas here in town, just running around doing things and going out to eat and stuff like that. And filled up with gas before I left and drove it till it was just about out of gas, stopped to get gas again. And when I got back in it and started pulling up on the highway, actually just starting it up and driving through the parking lot, it just seemed different. And as I got back up on the highway, it was like it was a whole different car. Then it was ready to go. And it's been that way ever since. So I assume, for lack of a better term, the control modules got used to the way I was driving. And, that's the way it works now.
Now,
So
you always run premium in yours?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I still think it is that it finally flipped over to the octane.
I've always run premium.
Gotta be part of it,
But
yeah.
I bet the previous owner did not.
That's possible.
The dealer
I agree with that.
Regular gas in it. Two things in the news today. One was the new Ellinghaus, the new Cadillac lead, said they're going to move some of their offices to Manhattan, away from Detroit. Now, besides giving them that New York point of view, that I think that the attraction there may also be that there's direct flights to Europe.
It must be, because about half the people who live in New York proper don't even have a car.
Yeah, New York, I think as a whole is a car market. Of course, California is the big car market. So if you wanted to get in tune with what's, with California, you'd move your offices out there, not to Manhattan. So the draw to me of Manhattan is you're closer to Europe. And so if you were going to start focusing on European sales,
LA's got its own problem.
I think they're closer to all the ad agencies too.
Yeah.
All the ad agencies.
So maybe we can get some better commercials.
Yeah. I was listening to you guys a couple weeks ago about the commercials. Every time I see those cars come out on the runway and the robots going like this, I said, wow, whatever happened to good old Cadillac engineering know-how, build a car the right way instead of all these machines.
Right.
I can't change the channel fast enough.
Well, and the sad thing is that's what went wrong with Hamtramck. Hamtramck was supposed to be this great automated assembly line, and they had so many problems with getting, now I think it does very well, but they had so many problems with getting the automation sorted out is why it suffered for so many years.
And another thing they want to be here in New York is for events, launch events.
The New York Auto Show, yeah.
I've been out in Phoenix for most of the time, and it seems like every single week. I came in for the Escalade, the 2015 Escalade reveal, but it seems like there was 7 events that week alone, and just over and over again, like something every week here in New York, the launch. So maybe that's part of it too.
Yeah, I agree that that's how they could get more. But you'd have to think the motoring press, that Detroit has the ear of the motoring press too, because that's, the heart of the American car industry. But maybe they're trying to move away from that image of made in Detroit and move, to be more metropolitan, so to speak.
It's
Now they're going
possible.
to be a Gotham City car.
I would have no problem with that.
Yeah, the older word they used to use, cosmopolitan.
Yeah.
Cosmopolitan, there you go. Maybe that's the right name for the new car.
Maybe.
The Manhattan,
Uh,
the Cadillac Manhattan,
Fleetwood Cosmopolitan.
the Fleetwood Cosmo.
The
Yeah.
Metropolitan.
Yeah,
Oh,
there you
yeah,
go. Well,
I remember the
Metropolitan was used.
metropolitan. That's what I
Yeah, we
thought
had
of
one of those.
after I said that.
Yeah.
Now, another exciting Cadillac news bit lately was they have decided on the new race car. Did you see this?
No.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I just briefly read about it before I joined the Hangout.
Go ahead, Vinny. You cover that one then.
I believe it's going to be the ATS-V.
The ATS-V, and they're going to run it in GT3
Wow.
with a twin turbo 3.6 liter in it.
Oh, they're going to run the turbo in the
They're
GT3
going to
class.
run the turbo in the ATS-V, and that introduces the opportunity to produce privateer cars to run in the European series that allow GT3 cars.
Well, that's wonderful because it always made me feel funny to be driving around in a car that had 100 horsepower more than the cars they were racing against Ferraris and Lambos and Vipers and stuff. But
Exactly. More.
yeah,
That's one of my favorite jokes is that they had to detune the
yeah,
CTS-V by 100 horsepower to go racing in order to make it fair.
I
yeah, they
had
had to
a
put an Escalade motor in it and hop it up.
I had a lot of fun with the guys at the auto show, at the New York Auto Show, saying that's a CTS-V and that's a CTS-V race car, but that car is more powerful than the race car.
Yeah,
Like,
Exactly. How could that be true?
yeah,
So I think that's very
rules.
exciting, and I imagine they're going to run the ATS Coupe, and what I think that means is that we're going to see some high aero on the racing version because
I
the
would hope so.
GT3 classes are allowed to run more aero, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Is the big difference, and they're allowed to run lighter, and so it'll have that same problem maybe that some of the GT3 cars have, where they get faster as the race goes on.
Well, at least they're going to do away with the horsepower and weight disadvantage. They had less horsepower and more weight than anybody else in GT3 class.
Yeah, but part of that's because they keep winning.
Well, the fact that they kept winning means that they have better chassis dynamics and driving and luck. But
But
Audi's
that,
nipping at their heels.
but that's also why they start to tune your spec back, right? Is if you keep winning no matter what, then they give you a harder spec to meet.
Well, since they were under the spec that everybody else was running to, there wasn't much they could do this year. But I'm sure they'd figure out a way for next year. But if they take an ATS GT3 and run it against the same rules as anybody else, it's an unknown. They're not going to be that afraid of it. It's a new car after all. So let's
Now,
just see what happens.
I'd
And
like to go on the record as saying I really like the idea of them racing the turbo engine.
Yeah.
But at the same
yes,
time, I would say we should expect the first year to blow a lot of engines.
that just depends on whether how they approach it. If they put that thing right on the edge of reliability, and yeah, they're gonna have problems with reliability. They may choose to be conservative. It just really figures if they need to do that to win, if they need to push the engine to the edge of reliability to win, yeah, they're going to blow some engines. But I
Well,
wouldn't count on it. We don't really know the numbers.
we know the street engines are getting 500 horsepower just with tuning, and so clearly the engine has enough power because that's all they were pulling out of the V8 now, right? Is around 500 horsepower.
Well, what you got to watch is the temperature and the spark map. You're well aware of the problems there, and they're going to be mapping uncharted territory with that motor on the racetrack.
But I really like them running as close to the production as possible because I want to see more hardware and changes come out of the race program into the cars.
Well,
Right.
yeah, right. That's they're going to be the only ones doing that for a car under $250,000.
Now, the other rumor for the next large car, which we'll call the Fleetwood in honor of our renaming and on tonight's show. The other change for the continuing rumor is that the standard engine in that car will be the twin turbo V6, and the premium engine in that car will be the V8, the turbo V8.
Turbo V8, the 4.5 liter or the 6.2 liter?
The 4.5 liter.
Ah.
Now, all they said in the rumor article was a V8 engine to be announced later. But
it's going to be 4-cam, 24 valve. Oh, sorry, 32 valve.
That's what I think. What I think is that they've either saved the Ultra engine or they've done a V8 version of the 3.6, and that we'll see a 4.5 liter V8 turbo come with it. Not the first year. I bet we see it the second year.
Well, 4/3 times 3.6 is 4.8, so it could be very well be, 8 cylinders with a slight D-stroke. That makes a lot of sense.
And then you could tune it to whatever horsepower you want, I think.
Well, they seem to be able to do that with a V6. You know that they're just saving spit in case somebody messes with them, with that motor.
Now, the LT4, Hot Rod had an interesting article in the LT4, which of course we're waiting on is the supercharged version of the LT1. And so they're continuing to rate it at 650 horsepower, 650 foot-pounds of torque. So that's the engine we think is going in the next CTSV. So if you take your CTSV and saved a couple 100 pounds by going to the new CTS platform and add another 80 horsepower, that ought to be a nice performing car.
100 horsepower. You said 650?
650, that'd be 100 horse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it ought to be a good performance improvement.
Yeah,
Yep.
I've driven the car enough to where I think it could use another 100 horsepower and still be survivable.
And still be survivable, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, 556, you're suffering. But if you could get it to 650, then you'd probably be okay.
I had a guy at work that drives other cars, not Cadillacs, performance cars, and he tinkers with them a lot. And I was he wanted to know about the StabiliTrak and all the computer-aided stuff. And I said, well, you could punch a couple of buttons on the steering wheel and take it all off. And he says, oh, bareback, that's the only way to ride. And I thought, of all the cars I've seen upside down in the road and all the cars I've heard about upside down in the road and the stories I've heard, like the first Morris Mini that the guys built, they built it and designed it as an 1100 cc. And the first 3 they sent out came back upside down in a flatbed. And so they dropped it to 950 cc until they could make some chassis improvements. That's a true story, and this was in the early 50s. So, also I punch those buttons. Not everything goes away. The first first tap takes off the traction control. So, you can do pavement ribbing and stuff if you like, of such a mind. Cut donuts, whatever. The second button, the message is StabiliTrak in competitive mode. That means there's just enough there to keep the shiny side up and the rubber side down if you don't know what you're doing.
Yes.
And you and I know that we've seen plenty of videos of these cars out on the track, and they've been in that mode, and people have had the wheel turned about 3 degrees and thought they see a way to go around somebody, and they'll just floor it instead of notching it back and easing down and balance, the way you're supposed to do. And the car will just go sideways, and StabiliTrak will keep it that way until their wits get about them and they pick it back up. But they basically lose about a second when they do that. But it keeps the shiny side up. That's a whole lot better than seeing the car slide off the side of the road because it's lost steering or something like that,
Yes.
Which is what it would do if it didn't have StabiliTrak, cutting the power and putting on brakes on diagonal wheels trying to keep the car from rolling or going off the track. So I also, when StabiliTrak came out, I think it was the 89 Corvette or 90 Corvette. Does anybody remember? Anyway, car you could turn it off then. It had, had 2 or 3 modes, but Car and Driver tried everything, and they could not find a faster way around the track with it off than they could with it in the track mode. So they basically turned better times on the racetrack with it in the competitive mode.
Now
and
that said,
a long time ago.
I would like to see a launch control on Cadillacs. That's something that to me fits right in with the Cadillac image, is that we should have launch control in the cars.
Well, I've said before that I really don't think that the CTSV needs one, because if the steering wheel's pointed straight ahead, the car will know what to do, and you will not break the back end loose and just stand there like you will in a Corvette. It will go. It will dig in and it will go. I think it has better weight transfer than a Corvette because of the higher center of gravity, but it will go. The fact that the rear tires are about a foot wide at the tread probably has something to do with that. But
when Cadillac Jim and I had CTSV out on loan, we were able to spin the tires freely without it.
I could do that with the Hankooks too, but I can't do it with the the Firestone. So the Goodyears that I've got now.
So it probably depends on the surface you're on and
the surface,
what you're up to.
The tire, the temperature, how much wear there is on the tire, a lot of things. But I know what you're saying, and yeah, I can see it. But you remember that video? We had 2 videos of a guy that was going to take a stone stock CTSV and tune it, and he only had 2 videos of it. And the second one, the rear tires were 28 psi, and the front at 50, and that alone, stone cold stock, showroom stock, within it had 0 to 60 at 3.7, and turned the quarter right at 12 flat. And though that's about that's a very good time for CTSV. You do not get those times if you have traction problems. And this was on a racetrack where the surface is heated and impregnated with rubber and is quite slick compared to the street the first 100 feet or so.
Vinny, talk to us a little bit about your web activities. I know Cadillac Country Club, but talk to us a little bit more about the different websites that you're doing about Cadillacs and what goes on there.
Well, I started a second website a couple weeks ago called CaddyChat.com. It was an old forum that I had that basically got spammed, and I didn't know what to do with it. But I've been finding my crowd has been very diverse. I have a lot of guys who like 1950s Cadillacs, and if I start talking about the new CTS, they don't really care. So it's like my club is separate totally. So I decided Caddy Chat will be from 2000 on, and Cadillac Country Club will be going all the way back to when Cadillac started. And
1903.
It seems to be working very, very well so far.
Good. And that's CADDYCHAT.com?
Yes. CADDY.
And Cadillac Country Club is just like it sounds, CadillacCountryClub.com.
Correct.
Good. Yeah, we'll I know you're on the iPad tonight, so you might not be able to. The other thing we're trying to do during the Hangouts is, like, you see these titles at the bottom. I don't know if the iPad lets you do that, so that we could put Cadillac Country Club on the thing there. But that's why I wanted to make sure that people understand that they can enjoy your site there at caddychat.com or CadillacCountryClub.com, depending on which era of Cadillacs you're interested in, or if you're interested in all of them, and then both the sites would be where you'd want to go. Yeah. Is that better? I heard a big. I thought you were grabbing your earpiece, but I heard a big crunch sound. So.
That was me.
Maybe that's your mic up on your ear.
Yeah, I was scratching my ear through the mic, and that happened.
So I'm going to hold us to the 35 minutes, which is 10 times the 3 minutes that they say that people have the patience to watch anything on YouTube. Thank you very much tonight for being on Cadillac Jim. Any last thoughts?
Well, it's really great to see Vinny here, and I'm pleased that Texas Jim came up with the suggestion of the night of calling the new model of Fleetwood something or other. And thank you for having me on again, Bruce. And it's been a good half hour. And I wish there was another hour of it, but well, that's fine.
And sometimes there is. I think that's probably the longest we've gone is an hour and a half or an hour and 45, because we had one week where we'd been on for an hour, and then I think Cadillac Jim came home from something. We'd already finished. Cadillac Jim was just getting home, so we just went on another we went on another 40 minutes. But the Texas Jim, any last thoughts?
No, I would like to see the new Fleetwood, but that's going to be a while yet.
Now they're going to show it at the New York Auto Show, right? So we'll get complete coverage from Vinny, and we'll get every news outlet in the world.
Maybe we'll do a Google Hangout from there when they unveil it.
Oh, perfect! You can bring your iPad, and we'll do it live at the auto show.
How's that?
Yeah,
Why not?
we can do that.
Yeah.
Vinny, any last thoughts for tonight's show?
I think they need to call the car something besides 3 letters that are coming out. I agree with the Fleetwood. Why not? And I want to see an ATS V convertible.
Oh, yeah, me too. That would be fun. Now, the note I took is actually they could have their cake and eat it too and call this new car the Fleetwood LTS.
There you go.
That way they could satisfy or dissatisfy everybody depending on how you look at it. Okay, so this has been the CaddyInfo.com, CaddyInfo. We do these chats on Thursday nights. If you love Cadillacs and you want to talk about Cadillacs, you can kind of get the gist of what the show's about if you've been watching but if you want to join us live, what you do is you contact me on Google+, circle me on Google+, and then send me a note. Let me know that that's what you would like, or get with me on CaddyInfo.com and let me know that that's what you'd like, and we'll try and get you included in the invite list so that then if you are available, then you can join us. So, gentlemen, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hit stop broadcast, but stay online, and that gives us just a moment that we can chat about other things. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you again next Thursday night.